Wonder what it would have taken to be the most infamous drug lord of all time. Look no further than Griselda Blanco, the cocaine godmother who made Miami her playground. It's the 1970s. Disco dominates, bell-bottom pants are the fashion, and cocaine is poised to cover America like a blizzard. Meet Griselda Blanco, a woman so evil she makes Tony Montana a Boy Scout. Trust me, all hell was just breaking loose, and you'll want to read the rest of it in this crazy life of the world's most infamous female drug lord. And there you have it, the beginning of Griselda Blanco, future cocaine godmother. From street tough urchin in Colombia to drug queen of Miami, Griselda's rise was as dramatic as it was record-breaking. Griselda was born in 1943 in the tough streets of Cartagena, Colombia. She didn't exactly grow up like the Brady Bunch, to put it mildly. By age 11, she'd already dipped her toes into the streets with her classmates in the underworld. She was said to have kidnapped a wealthy boy for ransom. When the family didn't fork over, our little terrorist reportedly pulled the fatal trigger that took his life. What a wild tween year. Flash forward to the 70s, and while everyone else was hustling, Griselda was hustling in another way altogether. She and her husband Alberto Bravo thought they'd put their drug show on the road to the Big Apple, New York City. Say hello to your new cocaine queen. But Griselda wasn't content to merely deal coke. No. She had to revolutionize the whole damn industry. You ever hear of underwear with secret compartments to smuggle dope? That was all Griselda, baby. She turned undergarments into a smuggler's paradise, turning Victoria's Secret into a whole new concept. By the late 70s, when she arrived in Miami, Griselda was earning a whopping $80 million a month. That's correct, a month. Not only was she breaking the glass ceiling, she was breaking it with kilos of cocaine. It gets crazy here. Griselda didn't just peddle drugs. She made Miami into an action film in real life. The cocaine cowboy wars of the 1980s? That was all Griselda. She introduced motorcycle drive-by shootings to the city, making the streets of Miami into the Wild West with a Colombian flair. And what if you double-crossed her? Well, Griselda didn't believe in second chances. She's accused of commissioning up to 250 murders. Her weapon of choice? Motorcycle hitmen. It was Sons of Anarchy meets Scarface, but on steroids. So intense was her terror that it scared the pants off seasoned criminals. She was also labeled the Black Widow, due to her rather nasty habit of killing her husbands after they annoyed her. Griselda Blanco did not step into the drug business. She flipped the entire business upside down. Attempt to imagine the following. It is the 1970s midpoint, and everyone else is disco dancing while Griselda Blanco is brewing a cocaine tempest. She blows into New York City in stilettos like a whirlwind. The Big Apple had no idea what hit it. Griselda and her husband, Alberto Bravo, weren't playing small time. They were playing large empire big. That's where Griselda's mastermind comes in. She invented these wacky smuggling tricks James Bond would kill for. Bras packed with cocaine, all Griselda, sweetie. She made undergarments a smuggler's haven. But Griselda was brains and tricks, not both. She was merciless. As other drug lords were encroaching, Griselda was leading the way, proving that size doesn't matter when you've got brains and no compassion. She dealt more than just coke. She created a damn empire. Griselda's empire stretched from New York to Miami, going up in flames literally. And she was remolding not just the drug trade, but also the face of organized crime. Griselda Blanco didn't dip her toe in the water, but she went head first and took over the entire pool. New York to Miami, there was a new city in her sights now. If the Big Apple was not good enough for her, watch her make this magic city truly magical. Griselda's gonna make the Sunshine State the cocaine state. In Miami, Griselda didn't just grow up, she blew up. She got mixed up with the notorious Pablo Escobar and the Medellin Cartel. It was the Avengers of drug dealing, except a lot more illegal and a lot more lethal. She had created a better distribution system than anything Amazon ever established. From Miami to California, in the 70s and 80s, one was doing it because of the Griselda empire if one was snorting coke. And the cash? Oh man, it was rolling in quicker than she could tally it. Private jets, mansions, and more bling than a rapper gets a blush from. Griselda wasn't wealthy. She was buy your own nation wealthy. But with great power, there was great paranoia. Griselda defended her empire with a team of loyal henchmen, and her business became a cocaine fortress. She wasn't building a company so much as a legacy to crime. Griselda Blanco wasn't just a drug queen pin, but a pop culture icon. How many offenders can you think of with not one, not two, but three badass aliases? Cocaine Godmother, Black Widow, La Madrina. That's a Marvel supervillain lineup, not a rap sheet. She was the Steve Jobs of trafficking. Griselda introduced new technology in smuggling that left the police scratching their heads. And her murder techniques? Well, simply put, she made assassination an inside-out art form. Hollywood was hooked on her story. Films, television shows, documentaries, Griselda was ubiquitous. She was the original anti-hero, a woman whom everyone loved to despise but secretly respected a little bit. Rappers invoked her name in songs as if she were a brand. "I'm like Griselda Blanco in my prime," they'd brag. She was shorthand for being a boss, a synonym for ruthless ambition. Even fashion caught a whiff of the Griselda fever. Her flashy fashionable leopard print and gold chains trended designers and wannabe gangsters alike. Love her or despise her, Griselda Blanco left an indelible imprint in pop culture. She taught us that occasionally, the most engaging stories develop from the darkest places. The 80s, sunshine, beach, and more cocaine than Tony Montana could blush at. At the center of it all, our girl Griselda, making the Magic City a murder city. Griselda didn't just participate in the cocaine cowboy wars, she all but authored them. She introduced motorcycle drive-by shootings into the streets of Miami, like some sort of video game come to life. Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, only with better consequences and worse fashion sense. Her tactics were so brutal, classic criminals were shaking in their boots. Rival drug lords weren't worried about losing sales. They were worried about losing their heads, literally. The body count? Let's just say Griselda was not renowned for her mercy. Estimates of how many people she'd ordered murdered range as high as 250. That is not a crime spree. That is an apocalypse by a single female. But it wasn't all blood and guts. Griselda was doing it hand over fist, quicker than a Vegas slot machine. She was taking in $80 million a month at the height of her career. That is not rich, that's buy your own country rich. Griselda did not simply change the rules of the game of drugs in Miami. She rewrote the whole damn rulebook. And the city would never be the same. Even the strongest of empires are no match for the passage of time. Nor was Griselda's cocaine empire. The night had to come to an end eventually. And for our Griselda, the morning after was nasty. Call in Operation Banshee, the DEA's not-so-subtle way of shouting, "Party's over, Griselda." They finally caught up with her in California in 1985. The look on the faces of those agents when they found out what big bad dope kingpin they'd been tracking was a 5-foot Colombian granny must have been simply priceless. Griselda's tests were the world's Netflix series, long, dramatic, and full of twists. She was locked up for almost 2 decades, but do not think that she stayed put. Hell no. Our lady supposedly ran her empire from jail. What a work-from-home scenario. But all good, or better yet, bad things have to come to an end. In 2004, Griselda got a one-way ticket home to Colombia. The DEA probably had a celebration that night when that plane left. Griselda Blanco's death was not the final exhalation of a criminal's existence, but the end of an age. The cocaine cowboys were hanging up their spurs, and Miami was finally going to be able to catch its breath. But in earnest, the city would never quite be the same without its cocaine godmother. Griselda Blanco may be deceased, but that doesn't mean she's forgotten in the underworld of crime. I mean, come on. When you're known as the cocaine godmother, folks don't just forget you. Now, let's talk about the legacy she left in the world of drug business. Griselda sold cocaine, yes, but she revolutionized the whole game. She was the Steve Jobs of trafficking, one step ahead of everyone else. Underwear smuggling techniques, pure genius by Griselda. A little bit of creativity, and a whole lot of violence. You were more than halfway to an empire Tony Montana would have envied. But Griselda's influence went far beyond just shooting products somewhere else. She revolutionized violence when it came to the cocaine trade. Drive-by ambushes on motorcycles? Hers alone. She turned Miami into a war zone and other cocaine dealers into amateurs. After Griselda's done with them, the rules of engagement in the cocaine trade were set forever. The police had to level up their game as well. Griselda's reign of terror made the DEA and police rethink. They could no longer merely gaze at the men. They would have to suspect that the ultimate threat could be a 5-foot Colombian grandma, breaking stereotypes for sure. In popular culture, Griselda expanded to larger-than-life proportions. Films, television, literature. Her tale has been retold more frequently than your granddad's fishing tales. She was the queen of anti-heroines, a woman you loved to despise but couldn't help but admire a little bit. I mean, How many other convicted felons can claim to have been acted out by Catherine Zeta-Jones? Even in the rap world, Griselda left her mark. Rappers reference her as a label name, substituting the name for Bossy. If you hear that a rapper is like Griselda, you can be sure it's not that she's like one of those stay-at-home cookie-baking homemakers, but Griselda's most enduring legacy is in how she changed the place of women in organized crime. She showed that, even in a macho, male-dominated world, a woman could be as ruthless, as cunning, and more successful. She didn't just break the glass ceiling. She broke it with a kilo of cocaine. Love her or hate her, and honestly, there's more than enough cause to do both. One thing is certain. Griselda Blanco left an indelible mark on the criminal world. She taught us that with sufficient ambition, no conscience for empathy, and a dash of insanity, anyone can be at the top even if the top is a mound of cocaine. The Griselda Blanco story is not a crime, but the story of a woman who went against conventions in an entire underworld. She held her own from Medellin to the cocaine kingdoms of Miami, proving that size does not really matter. Her assassination in 2012 was not closure but merely a comma in this criminal life that had assumed mythical proportions. Some legends never die, they just become stories we can't stop telling. From unimaginable success to her dramatic fall, her story is unforgettable. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Stay tuned for more crime stories.